I said before that we were going to be talking about fruit trees. Well, the reason why is because I've got fruit trees to plant. We've got an apple, a pear, 2 plums, and a fig right here. All right, but the thing about the fruit trees, I know nothing exciting there, it's just fruit trees. But these are going to benefit me in a lot of different ways, and that's what we're going to talk about today, because these are going to help me with security at the house. They're going to help me with food. They're going to help me save money. And at some point in the future, I'm wanting honeybees. They're going to help with that. Plus, they're just going to make the whole place look better, so more aesthetically pleasing. What I'm working on here, and this is a long-term project, this is going to take a while, it's not happening overnight. I want to build a hedgerow, a natural hedgerow of various plants close to the road. All right, and then what that's going to do, what's going to cut down on road noise, all the cars going by. It's going to give me privacy in the yard. It's going to make my house more secure. Okay, and the reason for that is things aren't going to be as visible to people driving by, therefore they're not going to be as tempted to want to come down here and take a look and maybe walk off with something. And hey, that does happen. Okay, if they can't see it, doesn't know it exists, it's not as tempting for them. Okay, plus the plants I'm going to go with in the hedgerow, I want to do evergreens so that I've got that barrier there year round. Okay, and I'm thinking sasanquas, which is a type of camellia, and then camellias. Elaeagnus, that's a good one. And Elaeagnus, it is a nitrogen fixing plant. Okay, so everything that grows around it's going to just be that much healthier. Plus it also puts off fruits, which the sasanquas, depending on what type you have, the leaves for it can be used for tea. And then the fruit from the Elaeagnus, it's really good in jams and jellies, that type thing. Okay, plus they all flower at different times. The sasanquas in the late fall into the winter, the camellias winter into spring, and then the Elaeagnus, that's going to be spring, summer when it blooms. All of that's going to be really beneficial for later on when I get honeybees that I'm talking about. Okay, then behind the hedgerow, I want a fence. Okay, we've got a lot of deer in the area. I've got a dog, I got to have a place for her to run around and play. And at some point, I'm wanting to go with chickens. Okay, so I'm going to need a large fenced-in area, and I have a large area here. So, okay, behind the fence, I want the fruit trees. All right, and that's what we're working on today is fruit trees. Okay, old saying with fruit trees, the best time to plant a fruit tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Well, that's why we're on the fruit trees now. A lot of that other stuff we can add throughout the year and as we go. The fruit trees, I want to get them in the ground while everything's still dormant, which my plum tree is already starting to bloom. That's why it had to go in the ground now, or needed to. Okay, so having fruit trees on the inside of the fence, all right, that protects the trees from deer, especially while they're young. All right, and I'm going to have fruit later on from the trees. The blooms on the trees, that's going to be great for the bees. I'm going to have a garden out here also, so we've got pollinators. I mean, this is just a win-win all the way around. Okay, the Elaeagnus that I plant in the hedgerow, that's going to help the fruit trees out. Again, it's nitrogen fixing, so the trees will be healthier. Fruit from the trees, that'll be stuff for chickens to pick around at some point in the future. not to mention plenty of fruit for myself. And I have no clue what the economy is going to do. Okay, and at this point, I don't really care. I used to have a basic understanding of the economy. Okay, and the math made sense. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay, if a business did well, if it was run well, managed well, made a profit, the business did well. Okay, well, things don't make any sense anymore. The math is not working. Okay, the stock market it hasn't done well in a long time. There are a few companies that have done well, which are basically holding up the stock market. Okay, the price to earnings ratio, the profit those companies earn versus what they make is just so far out of balance, it doesn't even make any sense anymore. Okay, so the math just isn't working. All right, but I've given up on even trying to figure out the economy or what it's going to do. I'm just focusing on, okay, what can I do? All right, well, I can make myself less susceptible to inflation. Okay, I don't think the inflation's going anywhere with the nation $34 trillion in debt. Okay, we see food prices. Okay, so fruit trees, they're not going to make me self-sufficient. It's not going to happen. All right, we need way more than fruit to live on. But you throw in some fruit, well, that's a nice treat. And I like fruit. It doesn't do any good to plant fruit trees if you don't like fruit and you're not going to eat it. But I do like fruit. Okay, well, depending on the varieties I plant, I can have fresh fruit coming in from late spring through fall. Okay, so we've got the plum trees we just planted. That's going to be a late spring when they come in, early summer. I'm going to add some mulberries, blackberries, other berries. Okay, well, all of that's going to be closer to mid-spring. Or just depending on which one we're talking about. Fig trees. I love figs. That particular type fig is a Celeste. It's one of the earliest to ripen, so it's probably going to be coming in around June, mid-June. Okay, I'll throw in other fig trees. Well, then the apples and the pears, that's fall, which the other fig trees will be July through fall. Okay, so that's 6 months of fresh fruit, of stuff that I really enjoy eating. And this isn't even thinking about canning or anything at this point, which later on, who knows. Plus, these fruits have a lot of different uses. And there's a lot we can do with them. They're very versatile. Okay, an apple. Think of all that you can do with an apple. Apple preserves, apple cider, apple sauce, used in baking, apple pies, apple fritters. You know, the list just goes on from there. Baked apples. Well, same with pears. Okay, so these are foods that can be used in so many things. Figs. A lot of us don't realize how much you can do with figs, how many different things they can be used in as far as cooking, which figs are a Mediterranean plant in origin. And anybody that's into eating Mediterranean type food, well, they're usually generally aware of just how versatile figs are. Okay, so we've got fruits that are going to be coming in the future. That's first year, you know, we're not expecting anything, but in a few years that we can do a lot with, and they're going to help me on the grocery bill. Just bottom line, you know, my grocery bill is not going to be zero, but it's going to be better than if I didn't have the fruit trees. A lot better, because oftentimes fruits are the most expensive thing. Okay, and then throw in there, okay, honeybees. Well, now I've got honey, and I really love fresh honey. Okay, well, the fruit trees are going to be good for the bees. Throw in some flowers and different things for the summertime for the bees. Now I've got a really healthy bee population. And just my opinion, and I'm just stabbing at this, I know people talk about the bees are dying and disappearing, and the chemicals are killing them, and I'm sure the chemicals are not helping. But I think the biggest thing hurting the bees, especially honeybees, well, all of them, is just the lack of flowers now. I mean, drive through a suburb, just typical suburb now, and every yard just looks like the same cookie cutter yard with the same variety of plants and very few things that bloom. Okay, or if they do, it's in the spring, and then that's it. Summertime, everybody's going for low maintenance. Okay, which I get it, and this is going to help me with maintenance too, by the way. The hedgerow, okay, that's less grass I got to cut. Okay. But on the low maintenance stuff, there's the weeds that people have eliminated. They went and sprayed the yards. They've gotten rid of the clover. They've gotten rid of the dandelions. And well, all of those things flowered, and the bees loved them, especially honeybees. Okay, well, all that's gone now. It's replaced with perfectly manicured yards full of sod. Okay, I think that's what hurt the bees more than anything. Just they don't have the food sources they used to have. All right, well, I'm going to make sure they got the food sources. All right, so now I've got honey. Throw in there the chickens. Okay, well, the fruit I don't get, hey, that's fruit for the chickens to scratch around and peck on and eat. And then the seeds from that and so forth. So this is a win-win that helps me in so many areas. It helps me with food security. It helps me save money. It helps just my general quality of life, and that I'm eating fresh foods that I really like. Okay, and this is something else. And I messed up here a little bit, but most of us don't realize how many varieties of, say, apples there are. Okay, there are over 5,000 varieties of apples. Seriously, there's more than 6 varieties that we see in the supermarket. Everything in the supermarket's in the supermarket because they make money on it. It ships well, it stores well, it does well during shipping and doesn't damage easily. Okay, the things in the supermarket aren't there necessarily because it tastes good. Well, there are varieties of apples out there that have a pineapple flavor to them. There are varieties of apples that have a cinnamon flavor. There are varieties of apples that store extremely well, and you don't even eat them until after the first of the year. I'm thinking of Arkansas Blacks at the moment. Okay, so there's just so much we can do with apples. And again, pears are pretty similar. All right, well, that just improves our quality of life when we've got a variety that we really, really like. And I say I messed up a little bit here. I got a Red Delicious, which Mrs. Rivers, she loves Red Delicious apples. Okay, so I didn't mess up. She will appreciate that. But where I messed up is not letting her try a variety of different apples. Because my guess is if she tries some of those other varieties that you just don't normally see in the grocery store, she would find one that she liked a lot better than a Red Delicious. Just stabbing at that. But anyway, we've got time to do all that later on, and we'll have a Red Delicious in for now, and it'll be useful and good, and I don't mind them myself. Okay, so anyway, a lot we can do with fruit trees. And I'm just happy to go on and get a few in the ground. And as far as planting them, I mean, pretty simple. Dig a hole and put the tree in. Okay, a little more to it than that. Best advice I ever heard on planting fruit trees is make the hole twice as big as what you're putting in it. Okay, and spend twice as much on the hole as you do the tree. Okay, and the reasoning there is the better the hole, you know, if you got good compost in it, that type thing, the tree's just going to do so much better while it's getting established. Okay, myself, I didn't add any compost or fertilizer or none of that. I've got really good soil here. Okay, so I've got a good layer of topsoil on top of red clay, and then I did mix up the soil that I dug out of the hole, so the trees should do really well as is. Plus, they're still in the whatever inert material they were planted in at the nursery, but it's got fertilizer in it. Okay, so the trees should do just fine as is. And I went ahead and planted the plum trees. They needed to be planted, and they're starting to bloom, and then I'll do the apple and pear next, and then we're going to add other things. And that was $200 worth of trees you just saw there, those 5 trees. Fruit trees are not cheap, but those were older trees. The nurseries had to maintain those trees for 2 or 3 years for them to get to the size they are, so that's why they charge more. Now for a lot of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to go cuttings. Okay, so I'm going to take a cutting off of various types of trees and put those in dirt with water basically, and then the cuttings will establish their own root system, and then eventually I'll plant those. That's free, or almost free. I got to buy a cup to put them in. But that takes time. Okay, so that's everything, you know, time versus money. We can go spend more on more mature trees, put them in, they're going to be fruiting a lot sooner. Okay, so I went ahead and bought a few, and then the rest I'll do from cuttings, and might go buy a few more. It just depends on what I run across. And I'm going to do a wide variety also. I'm going to add some cherry trees. I've got an apricot tree on the way. I've got an ambrosia apple tree. I do like the ambrosia apples. Okay, so once I get those trees, then I can take cuttings from them and plant those. All right, but I want to get established here as quickly as possible, so that's why I'm buying some. And keep in mind with apple trees, generally it's not a good idea to try to grow apple trees from seeds. I mean, the seeds will sprout, you will get an apple tree. There's just no telling what kind of apple you're going to get. Just the nature of apples and the way they reproduce, you could have a red delicious apple tree. Okay, well, if it gets any pollen from any other type of apple tree, then the result from the two, there's no telling what flavor your apple's going to have. It's not going to be a red delicious anymore. It's not going to be whatever other type of apple tree that cross-pollinated with the red delicious. It could be a wonderful apple, but it could be horrible too. And you're going to have to wait 5 or 6 years to find out. So that's why it's just best with apple trees and pear trees. Just get a cutting from a variety that you know what it is, root that, and then you know what you got. Okay, so yeah, I think we covered it on fruit trees, and yeah, there's just so much we could go into on fruit trees, and you know, people have been cultivating fruit trees for a while, a few thousand years. Yeah, there is a lot to them, but it's interesting, and they are extremely beneficial and have been. That's why people have been fooling with them for a few thousand years now. And now for a quick update on the house while we're here. We're making progress. Okay, it's not raining every single weekend right now like it did for the past 2 months, which has helped out tremendously. Plus the days are starting to get longer, so that means I'm going to be able to start doing some things in the evening after work. We're finally about to start making progress again. I actually made a lot in the past couple weeks. Okay, the existing piers, all right, where I'm standing now, there's an addition going here. Okay, these had sunk down just a little bit. Okay, so we beefed these up. We've got concrete pads here by each pier that 10 inches deep. Okay, then we've got rebar that we drilled in and put into the pier. Then we poured cement around the rebar, and it's sitting on the concrete pads we added. Okay, that's just going to strengthen everything up because now there's going to be more weight on the end here when we add the addition. Okay, and other things around here, we finally got the septic tank finished. Okay, and this ties in too with the fruit trees. Get to know your yard. Okay, this is a low area here. We had some serious rain the past couple of months. Okay, this was actually underwater for a little while there. When I say we got rained out, I mean literally, it was underwater. Okay, well that was useful to know as far as for the septic tank. We're going to do some grading, that'll take care of that. We've got a low spot in the yard where the drain field is. The water didn't have anywhere to go. It basically got turned into a pond. A little grading, it'll run off. Life will be great, no problem, but that's really good stuff to know. But that's stuff we need to know too as far as our fruit trees and where we're going to plant them. We don't want to put them in soggy soil where their roots are going to rot. We want well-drained soil. Okay, and then sunlight's a big thing also. All right. Out behind me here, we're going to have a garden there. Okay, well, I had to think about that as far as the fruit trees, because once they get some size on them, that's shade from the fruit trees. I don't want them shading out the garden, which they're far enough away, it's going to work good. And the house here, this direction is actually southeast. That's basically where the fruit trees are facing. Okay, so they're far enough away though that they're not going to block out the sun in the months when the sun's lower on the southern horizon. Okay, just stuff to keep in mind when we're planting stuff. And everything on this side of the fruit trees, it's going to be pretty much a dead zone, or it's only going to be good for plants that don't need a lot of sunlight, because that's going to get shaded out in this side of the hedgerow. But the garden's going to be far enough away that it's not going to be an issue. Just more stuff to keep in mind. Yeah, we are making progress with the house again, thankfully. Hopefully we'll have some more updates on that pretty soon. God bless, and till next time.